I'm Malcolm from Aquaspray. This is Kranzle's portable range of machines. There's 4 of them. I'm going to tell you how to choose the correct one for you. Stay tuned. So in the range of 4 machines, there is, starting off with the most common one, the 7122. This is a standard machine that continues running. When you let go of the trigger, it'll continue to run, and you have to turn it off to stop the machine. They do exactly the same machine, but the automatic version, so the TS, which stands for total stop. The 7122 TS, when you let go of the trigger, will stop the machine. When you pull the trigger, it will start the machine again. There is the 10122 standard. Just like the 7122, the 10122 will run on. When you pull the trigger, it will continue running. When you let go of the trigger, it will still run until you turn it off at the switch. They do the same machine again. The 10122, the TS. Remember, the TS is standing for total stop. So when you let go of the trigger, it will stop. When you pull the trigger, it will start again. They all have their uses for depending on how you're using the machine. So firstly, the difference between the 7122 and the 10122. The 7122, the number 7 means 7 litres per minute. The 10 on the 10122 is 10 litres per minute. They both run at 120 bar, but the 7 litres a minute is good for if you're using it on a water tank and you've got a limited water supply. The 10122, for every 1 litre per minute as a rule of thumb, is worth around about 10 bar. So you will get more performance out of this, but it depends on where you're using it to whether you can use it or not. All the machines have the same switch, the capacitor, the electric box cover, the pressure gauges, the unloaders, the seals. The only difference between them is the 10122 has a different valve to the 7122. They're exactly the same size and you will be able to swap them over, but they have a slightly different one. The 7122, because of the slower running motor, has a softer spring in that valve, and that makes it easier for a water tank. You're sucking water from a water tank. The 10122 has a harder spring, so sucking from a water tank, it's not the best for it. It is possible to change from that valve and put it on a 10122 if you were using a water tank, but it's not that advisable. If you have to use a water tank, you start looking at the 7122. First, the 7122. 7 litres a minute will last longer on a limited water supply if you've got it in a van of a mobile detailer. The 7122 has a slower running motor, a 4-pole motor. That means it's going to use less current to completely run the machine. So when you've got a 1.6 kilowatt, people will ask about generators and running it from a generator. The 7122 will run from a generator, but we'll go over that in a different video. The 7122 will run better on a generator than a 10122. You would need a bigger generator for the 10122, which is why the 7122 is perfect for mobile detailers. Automatic and non-automatic. If you are using it on a generator, the automatic is not that advisable. It will work on a generator as long as you have a good enough power supply from that generator. Every time the machine kicks over, every time it starts, it will rise up on the amps, and you need to make sure that your generator can cope with the starting and running and stopping and then starting again, and that will wear out the generator a lot more quicker. If you have the standard machine, when you turn it on, you're only starting it once. So when it's running, the generator will be able to cope and get down to a proper level. And it's only when you start it that it's got that big jump in amps. Once it's running, it'll be fine. So I always recommend people, if they've got a generator, to go for the standard one unless you've got a big generator. So if you're a home user and you're using it from a mains electric supply and a mains water supply, I would recommend the 10122. It will give you that extra performance and more of the accessories fit the 10122 because of the flow rate that you have with it. So then all you have to choose is whether it's automatic or standard version. The standard version will continuously run when you let go of the trigger, and you must turn it off if you're going to leave it for any particular length of time to save the seals getting overheated. The automatic version will stop as you let go of the trigger and start again when you pull the trigger. Some people like that, some people like the standard version. So the pros and cons of an automatic machine over a standard machine. The automatic machine, when you let go of the trigger, the motor will stop. This will reduce your power consumption and ultimately save you money in the long term. When it's stopped, there will be no noise from it, so it's reducing noise pollution. But you must remember to turn the machine off and release the pressure from the gun if you're leaving it unattended for a long period of time. If you leave the automatic machine with pressure in it overnight or over the weekend, then it's a possibility that you could damage an O-ring where it could just burst an O-ring out and the motor could start, and then ultimately, because nobody's around, could damage it. So the standard machine is literally without the microswitch box. Without a microswitch box, there's nothing to go wrong with it. It's just an on-off switch and a motor and a pump. It's the most basic machine on the market. It's the easiest fixable machine on the market. So the 7122 with a slower running motor runs at 83 decibels. The quicker motor and the 10122 runs at 90 decibels, so it's slightly louder. If that's a factor, then the 7122 is the way forward. On the side of the machines there's a sight glass for the oil. It's always good to keep an eye on the oil and check it regularly. You can quite easily change the oil with a sump nut at the bottom. I will be doing a video on how to do that in the future. Throughout the range they all have pressure gauges on them. This will show you the working pressure of the machine when you've got the trigger open. If you need a reduced pressure, you can always turn the pressure down by turning this red knob out and then increasing the pressure, turning the knob back in. All the machines will have a filter, a small little filter in the back end behind this water coupling. Inside that filter, it's good to check it regularly, especially if you're using it from a tank supply where you could get debris in there and it will suck through. It's better getting caught in this filter than in a valve. You'll have to start stripping things down for that. Depending on where you place the machine, you'll mount the machine, whether it's in a van or on a wall. Make sure that there's an airflow to get to here. This is a cooling fan, so the air needs to go in there and cool the side of the motor. If you have it hard up against a wall or in a box, it won't be able to cool this motor down and it can overheat. If it overheats, it will trip this switch. The switch has a mechanism in there, so if it works over amps or gets too hot, it will click out and the machine will stop, and you will have to leave it to cool down until it starts again. If you're out and about and you're on a mobile detailing and you get a blocked valve, in the instruction book it will tell you how to unblock that valve. All of these machines are so simple to fix. If you have some spanners and a couple of screwdrivers, you can literally do everything on them. It's just the spare parts from there. So just to recap, the mobile detailers and people who are using a tank with a limited amount of water, I would suggest the 7122. If you're using a generator, again, the 7122 will run it easier. If you're using the automatic version, you need a higher rated generator so that it can cope with the starting of the machine. Every time you let go of the trigger and pull it again, it needs to be able to start it. So you need a good generator for the automatic. If you are using it off a mains water supply and a mains power supply, then the 10122. And then you have the choice of the automatic and the standard version. Like I said before, that's up to you. It's a preference thing. If you found this video useful, like and subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments which machine is the one that's right for yourself, or if you have any further questions. Throughout the range they have a oil sight glass so you can see the oil. It's always good to keep an eye on that and check the oil regularly. Like, fuck it. Why can't I say regularly? Regularly? I said it!